What is a thing that your parents consider normal and you do not consider normal anymore? Not talking about any negative emotions. They could handle me being happy, but anytime I was sad, upset, or depressed? Nope. They didn't want to see it or deal with it. My mom would even say, "What the hell do you have to be so upset about?" Also, not showing affection or saying, "I love you." Years ago, my brother was admitted to the hospital. We didn't know what was wrong with him, and it was scary. I had been crying, and my dad was very upset too. As we were walking out of the hospital together, I went to reach for his hand. I thought it would be comforting, a sign that I would be there for him. He ripped his hand away from mine so fast. I was stunned and never tried to do that ever again. Reply: I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I had a similar experience with my mother when her brother passed away. I was a teen at the time, and tried to console her while she sobbed on the floor next to her bed. She shoved me away forcefully and yelled at me to get out. Never again have I ever tried to be affectionate with her. It's weird and uncomfortable when she tries to initiate on holidays or birthdays. Being rejected by a parent will mess anyone up. I hope you've healed from this, stranger. Story 2. My school held me back because I was shy and socially awkward. Did it help? Nope. It just meant the few friends I had made were now in another grade, and I would be struggling again to make new friends. They also tried putting me in SBID when I absolutely didn't need it. My mom refused that, and I'm glad she did, because I was ahead of most of my classmates until I got through high school. I basically coasted until I got to college, at which point math classes humbled me and proved that I wasn't the best. I just wasn't being challenged previously. No, none of that helped with my shyness. I'm still socially awkward and introverted. Story 3. Openly mocking your spouse, the wife bad mentality. My father and his friend got together and were talking about how their partners were stupid for liking a YouTube smoothie guy and how stupid women were, and it was just really sad to see. Like if I thought someone was a moron and I didn't agree with their views and we fought all the time and I was miserable with them, I would just not date or marry them. I can't imagine openly mocking my partner to my friends. I love and cherish him. I've been in relationships that made me miserable, and I have no desire to do that again. I'd rather be single. I just do not get it. Story 4. Just getting a job by walking in anywhere. All my adult life, whenever I've needed work, my dad continues suggesting just showing up to an office and don't leave until they let you talk to a manager and hand them your resume yourself. Poor younger me actually tried this, and I wandered around to every business trying to find my first job, hearing back from exactly 0. Reply: my dad still believes this, and I'm trying to tell him that these days you can get your name blacklisted. I finally spelled it out as, if they tell you to apply online and you demand to give them a resume in person instead, then clearly you can't follow directions. So why would they look twice at you? He sort of conceded on that, but I don't know how long it will stick. Story 5. A college degree is everything. Sure, it's important, but degrees are generally extremely specific nowadays. Years ago, I got a side job to pay off debts in the dining hall of a retirement home. When I told my parents this in passing conversation, my dad scoffed and said I should have applied to run the entire facility. The current director has a master's in management with an emphasis in geriatric care. My degree in X would never even get me an interview. Story 6. Being so utterly afraid and paranoid of basically everyone in public that you assume everyone who has an interaction with you secretly wants something from you or wants to hurt, abuse, or do something bad to you. Yeah. That one programmed in a lot of social anxiety that I'm really having to fight hard as an adult. Turns out most people in public aren't out to get, scam, kill, rob, or murder you. Most of them are just other average people going about their equally average lives, and most of the people who are doing more nefarious stuff usually have other signs that they are less than favorable people. It's weird because my mom wasn't agoraphobic or locked herself in her room all day. She seemed to have a fine enough time going out in public, shopping, going to work, and whatever else, but at the same time, she frequently preached and seemed to truly believe the idea that basically everyone out there is out to get ahead of you maliciously, or is looking to scam, trick, or do something bad to you. Story 7. Calling me out of the blue and being upset when I don't answer. I don't get this one because they grew up in a time where it was perfectly normal not to have caller ID and not to have an answering machine. I myself did, in fact. If you called, and I wasn't home and within earshot of someone calling for me, you didn't speak to me until I called you back, assuming you were also available at that time. But we didn't get upset over it unless it was the third or fourth time in a row. Phone tag. Now I get the worst of both worlds. Unexpected calls and frustration when I don't pick up. Just text me to ask if I can chat. Otherwise, I assume it's an emergency. No one calls out of the blue unless it is. Story 8. Spanking. I am actually estranged from my parents and relatives over this issue, as my mother wanted me to spank my son with a paddle when his ADHD was diagnosed, and we did not spank him at all. I was spanked religiously as a child, to the point where a family therapist we went to when I was 13 or 14 told my mother to try spanking me more. This would have been in 1988 or 1989. But my mother does not consider it abuse, which I do, and as a result, she thinks I believe I was abused and refuses to talk to me. Story 9. Not estranged from my parents, but I grew up in the 80s. We got spanked with belts or flip-flops. My parents considered it mild because they themselves had been actually beaten. I have very negative memories ingrained in my brain from being physically punished for accidental things. I shit the bed when I was a toddler because I was sick. My mom spanked me in the shower, water running, and yelled the entire time. My granddaughter refused to eat something on her plate one night during a visit to my parents' home. My dad talked about how he'd tear that butt up if it were him. I was like, yeah, we all turned out so much better for the spankings, eh? Yeah, I'm fairly traumatized by some of the discipline I received as a kid, and I often wonder what my mom went through because I'm sure it was worse, which of course is why she thought it was okay. One core memory I have is my mom making me take a bath before spanking me so my skin would be softer and wet so the hits would feel worse. She said she wanted to cause welts. This wasn't the first time she'd done that to me, but it was the first time while at my grandmother's house. My grandmother asked her if the punishment was too extreme, and my mom flipped out on her, saying, "As if you wouldn't do the same or worse to me at her age." My grandmother's face got very sad, and she just turned away and allowed my mom to continue. I've never brought it up with either of them, but I think about it all the time. I think about my mom taking that anger out on me, but also how hurt my mom must have been, never having an opportunity to work through it in a healthy way, her feeling bad at treating me the same, but also feeling justified in her actions. My grandmother's face said so much too. The sadness and shame of unspoken behavior between the two that as adults they locked behind doors of the past. The guilt she probably felt hearing me scream and thinking some of that pain is her fault for passing that kind of lesson on to my mom. I don't remember my grandmother ever hitting me beyond a casual smack like she might do to anyone else not listening to her, regardless of age. But based on that small exchange, I know that wasn't the case when my mom was a child. TLDR. Generational trauma is a bitch. Story 10. My parents are minor hoarders, especially my dad. My mom buys shoes for every occasion she attends, and she gets invited to a lot of things, so she keeps piling those shoes up. She also buys stuff she doesn't actually use. But my dad is even worse. He doesn't buy much stuff. Sometimes he also buys things he would never use. But his biggest problem is keeping stuff despite it being damaged to the point of being literal trash. He says it's still important, or there's still some use for it, but he would leave it there and never touch it again. Our house gets flooded a lot, at least once every year, so we have lots of damaged items. Because I'm currently unemployed, I'm the one who deals with the cleaning most of the time. So I would already clean and put all the rubbish and damaged items in the trash. My dad would take half of it out of the trash and put it back into our house. In our most recent flood, which happened around early July this year, I had to throw my dad's old work documents and books from the 90s and early 2000s. Then he came home and immediately started taking it out of the trash and putting it under the sun to dry. I had a big argument with him, saying how stupid it is, but he won't listen. These are work documents from his previous job. He doesn't even need them anymore. He changed careers already. And most of the books are outdated dictionaries and old newspapers. Plus, they are all faded at this point, and some pages just stick together, so you can't even read them. Sometimes it feels like no matter what I do to clean this house, it'll always end up littered with useless trash. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more incredible Reddit tales. Share your thoughts or your own experiences in the comments below. I love hearing from you all. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring those amazing stories.